Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, the Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you.
What's going on, y'all?
Hey,
So I was scrolling social media, and I came across a clip, and it was just saying, basically this lady was saying how she was talking about we give the words meaning, because she was like, if I say something to you about you that's perceived negative about you in Spanish, and you don't speak Spanish, then it means nothing to you. So I love that, because it's like, we know who we are, and I feel like when somebody, you perceive them saying something negative about you, it's really you giving those words meaning. Because if you know it's not true, then what does it mean? And so I just like her saying that, and really I wanted to talk today about us giving words meaning.
I like that a lot too, because it's funny. As you were speaking, it reminded me of, now I think, I used to always push back on the sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. I used to always push back on that, like, yeah, but no, words can hurt. But after you just broke that down, I kind of think I now kind of align with the words can never hurt me, only because the words can never hurt me if I'm choosing how I want these words to affect me. So if I'm deciding what's going to hurt me and what's going to make me happy, as long as I know that I'm in control of my feelings and that the only thing that can really affect me is me, then the words, I guess, can't hurt me.
I can say, thinking about that topic, Rodney, I remember at one time, words did hurt me. You said something to me, and this was the younger days, you say something to me, I might take offense to what you say, and I realized, what you're saying is nothing negative, but it probably was something that was constructive criticism, and I take it to heart. So now I think I understand the power of what you say, basically what you're giving power to. And I noticed for myself that I pay attention to what I say and how I deliver what I'm saying. So I like what you said, though. I agree with you.
This kind of reminds me of something that I started doing in the last month too, which is as y'all know, I like to really make sure that I'm hearing and taking in the words that people say. And so now, at first I used to be like, oh no, I really be very intentional about how I respond. But now I'm saying to myself, I receive those kind of words, or I'm not receiving that. And that's kind of been the way that I've been using myself as the barrier to what words or what stories I'm going to allow to be a part of my story. It's okay, you say something like, oh, you're just so rude, I'm going to go, I don't accept those words, because that's not a part of my story. But you say, oh, Try, you're a kind, gentle person, I go, I accept that and I receive that compliment. So I definitely think that it is all about your feelings are what kind of dictates what the words do in the coming future. Your feelings dictate whether or not these words will positively or negatively affect you, because it's all about how you're feeling in that moment.
I remember I used to, if somebody is not close to me and they say something about me, that don't really do nothing for me. But somebody close to me saying something that I perceive as negative about me, then that would really affect me. And I just had to get to a point where I'm like, well, they saying this to me, is this really worth me being mad or feeling a way about it for weeks? Mm-hmm. That was first what I asked myself. Then I asked myself, is it true? And no, it ain't. So if it ain't true, then what am I mad about?
Right.
So So it's like I got the power to not give it meaning and to bring myself back. Like, hey, it isn't true. So what are you mad about right now? You know, they said whatever, but you don't believe that about yourself. So, you know, let it go. And I think a lot of times a lot of times words that we perceive negative can get to us because we may be unsure about ourselves with that, or maybe not loving ourselves in that area or something like that.
Yeah, Rodney, you was just saying something too that it sparked a thought in my mind too, which was the two questions that you asked yourself, and the second one was, is it true? And so for me, I used to ask myself that question too, and then I used to wonder, well, if it's not true, what is getting me so upset? Like, why does it still bother me? And then I realized, like, it was the idea of that perception of that being true, like, to others about me, used to, like, really bother me. And then it took me sitting down and saying, like, well, you have the perception of what is, or you can just show up and be you, and that perception goes right away. So, like, if somebody was like, oh, you know, Teron's hard to work with, you know, he doesn't really do much, or he talks real rude to people or whatever, I would, like, really be upset, like, but why are you putting that on my name? Why are you putting it on my character? Like, you know me better than that, don't do that. But now I'm starting to say, well, even if that is how that's how one person interprets me, once I show up and once I'm standing in my highest self, nobody else kind of sees me that way. And I kind of dealt with that on the flip side, in a work-related sense before too. I remember I was applying for somewhere, and everybody's like, oh, don't work for him. He's a hard nose, like he's no good, like he won't do anything. And man, I got in there and had the time of my life because the perception was not what it was. It's just who they are.
Thinking about, I remember years ago when I quit my job, and I was working at this job for like about 8 years, right? And just I wanted to like start a business. So I was like, all right, cool. So I'm sitting back and at the time telling people that's close to me, hey, look, I'm about to start this business. I'm excited about it, you know, ready to quit. And I remember I got a lot of backlash from people saying, well, not really in a negative sense, but it was more of like coming off as, you know, well, how are you going to do this? And well, how much, you know, how much money you need to put into this? And it was a lot of worry and anxiety behind it, right? Because they were thinking about my well-being. And before I even allowed them to really get inside my head, I was excited. I was amped up, right? But then after I started talking to them, I'm like, damn. Now I was thinking to myself, like, man, you know, they sort of got a point there. So I you know, like, how am I going to do this? And so just that alone, it made me realize, like, it put me in the space of just understanding that no matter what anybody else say, what I feel, and if I feel like it's a good idea, if I feel like I'm right, then nobody's words can hinder me from doing what it is that, you know, that I want to do or accomplish for myself. So now, you know, it don't really, you know, it don't affect me what somebody is saying. But that was one of the many things that I remember.
So I know, I think recently somebody was talking to me about how the mean words that their parents say to them. And so when their parents talk to them any kind of way, then that kind of sets them off on a bad path, makes them feel really bad, depressed, you know, that type of thing. And like, I've heard stories like that over and over again. And, you know, my parents never talked to me poorly, but there was a time when, like, the way my parents were living, it irritated me, and I didn't know how to deal with it without being irritated. And so I guess it's kind of similar to what people are saying about, you know, my parents are, you know, talk to me any kind of way. But I liken it to the whole ideal of you're the person that gives everything meaning. We give everything meaning, right? And so what I tend to do is, like, for example, I used to work with children that were probably on the autistic spectrum, but I think back then we didn't call it that. We probably called it something else. But like their behaviors, like when you first, I guess, encounter them, their behaviors could be scary. They could be scary or off-putting, or I don't know, kind of make you feel unease. But after a while, once you get to know them and you develop a rapport with them and everything, then you know you love them just the way they are. Like, it doesn't matter that they do stuff that we would consider to be, you know, not normal. You just love them just the way they are. And so to me, the challenge or the task is to love, in that situation with the parents, is to love them just the way they are. And we can give it any meaning we want. We can make it mean that we're doing something wrong, which is why our parents are mean. We can make it that something's wrong with our parents. That's why they're mean. Or we can just say, that's just how they are. And I can just love them anyway. We don't have to take it in. Like, if I'm working with an autistic kid, or someone who is doing these behaviors that you might not consider to be normal behaviors, I'm not mad at them for being who they are. And so by the same token, to be mad at someone else for being who they are, you know, that goes back to, you know, I can't be happy unless you live your life the way I want you to live it. And so basically changing up the story, because especially when it's your parents, you feel like my parents are supposed to blank. And when they're not, then I'm not okay. Right? And so, but changing up the story, like, my parent, that's just who they are, I'm gonna love them through it. You know?
I remember I had to do the same thing. I mean, like, at one time with my parents, you know, understanding that, like, I disliked the way that they, you know, went about doing things, and I felt like I'm trying to help them, but I'm helping them by telling them you should do it my way. You know what I'm saying? And not realizing that, you know, hey, that's just who they are, and you gotta love them regardless.
And this, I think changing your perspective is so key, because a lot of times people will say, well, I just love you from a distance. I ain't gonna have nothing to do with you. I still love you though. But because you ain't acting the way I want you to act, you know. But it's like, it's really like, I'm talking about the parent situation mostly because I'm dealing with someone who's having that issue right now. But it's really about literally changing your perspective on it and giving it new meaning, giving what the relationship is, giving this interaction a new meaning. It's not to pretend like it's not happening. It's not to pretend like the mean things that they're saying feels good to you. You know, none of that. But really to just see it in a whole different perspective. That's that person. That's how they're living their life for whatever the reason is. And it doesn't, in this space, it doesn't really have anything to do with you. Like, they don't have to live their life the way you want them to in order for you to be happy.
But I think what you said is important, and it actually brought me back to what I now see as like a lighthearted memory. And it was lighthearted then too, I guess, when I think about it too. I'll never forget, I was like 8 or 9 years old, and my mom had asked us like to sweep her downstairs or whatever. And so I swept her downstairs or whatever. I thought I did a terrific job. I felt good about my job that I did or whatever. And so she came in the house and she's like, who swept down here? It's pitiful. Now, at the time, I'm 9 years old and I hadn't really even known what pitiful was, so I still took it as a compliment. I'm like, yeah, no, I did. Like, look, like I did a good job. And she's like, no, you didn't. I just remember being like, oh, I'm so heartbroken. And then when I learned what pitiful was, I was like, she thought it was really bad. Like, but I think it just goes to, I like to hold on to that story because the 8 and 9 year old me that just did not know what the word pitiful was, just that fast was able to make it feel so positive and like this is such a great feeling word. Whole time it's like, no, this is like the worst of the worst.
And I know I've just had so many situations in my life where, you know, I make things mean this. And the truth is, I have no way of knowing really what a person really meant when they say what they said. I just decided that it was the most negative thing or whatever. And so I was like, well, if I made that story up, why not make up a story that's the best thing? Either way, I'm not going to know the truth. I'm never going to ask that person, well, what did you mean when you said I probably never even see that person again. So, but I made up this story, the thing that's going to hurt me the worst. So I'm like, I'm going to just start making up stuff that's going to make me feel the best. Right? Just tell myself a different story.
But something I always used to keep in mind, though, is just even with somebody saying something negative to me, or like they say something to trigger me off, that everything is happening for me, not to me type of thing. And when I remember that, it's like, it mellows me out. Don't cool me down all the way, but it just sort of just like, all right, so I'm feeling like this for a reason. You know, they said that for a reason. It's something that I need to, you know, take from it and learn for myself.
Stevie, you said something earlier. Well, you said it multiple times, and I just really wanted to just give you kudos again, because it's one thing that you do that I love, and it's like when your coworkers were telling you like, yeah, well, you know, how you gonna do this, how you gonna do that, the way that you were so instantly able to kind of switch it to, well, like, yeah, I guess those are good questions for me to consider. I just wanted to give you kudos for that, because I think it is so hard for people sometimes to like really hear the words that are being said, and like, and instead all we ever hear is however we want to internalize. And I think it's so easy to get to the, well, why you doubting me? Why you asking all these questions? Why you all in my business? Versus the like, oh no, you genuinely care about me, you love me, you concerned, and like you're just like, you trying to help me on this process as well now. So yeah, congratulations and kudos again.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree, but sometimes you just don't need nobody's help. They're gonna help you to fail.
Talking about, yeah, but don't do that yet.
That's how I kind of put things with like my dad. Like, he'll be telling me stuff, and I perceive it as like he coming down on me or something.
Yeah.
But when I switched to thinking to like, yo, he just cared. Like, I don't have to agree with everything he said, but the fact that he took the time to stop me and say it means, like, to me, I take that meaning as he cared. So I don't have to agree with everything he say or take it all personal. You know, I can just look at it like, he care. This how he feel, and he can tell me how he feel. I'm not mad at that. You know, and so like, I try to do that with everything now. You know, like my grandma. You know, it's job. Okay, what you doing? You gotta have a job. Right. You know, but I don't take that personal or take it like, nah, that's not my thinking or nothing. She care. She care. Yeah.
It's like with even like with my daughter, right? When her mom disciplines her or says something to her, she receives it differently from when I say something to her, because her mom is mainly the one that's doing more of the discipline with her, right? But when it's my turn, it's, man, this is I start to water up and, you know, be all soft and mushy, and I'm like, look, don't get offended by what I'm saying, but it's the way that she receives it, like I'm being hard on her, and I'm not being hard on her. You know, it's just like, hey, you know, this I'm telling you this because I do care. So it just made me think about what you were saying, Rodney, like how people can just take what you're saying and they might hear it in a totally different way, or their way of hearing what you're saying is different from how you're actually really saying it. But yeah, after I explained it to her a couple of times, I'm like, look, don't you gotta cry. Like, I love you, but this is what I want you to do, because I know you're good, you better than that, and so forth. So.
I've had times where it's like, I might have said something to somebody, maybe jokingly or lightheartedly, and like, I ain't talked to them for a couple weeks after that. Like, what happened? It's like, nah, you said this and that, and I'm like, huh? Yeah, that wasn't even nothing I thought twice about. Like, it wasn't that deep to me. But they may have took it personal, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, I apologize, or and I realized that it could have been just the way they were hearing things that day. That could have been a day where they was hearing everything negatively or whatever. So it's like we all can do that at times, but we also have the power to give it whatever meaning we want.
Mm-hmm. And that's so true, that point that y'all both made again about, you really, 9 times out of 10, you don't know how the other person ever meant it. You only know how you received it. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of times when people are like maybe upset, and then they might be coming to me, but it's like through text or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so when I respond back, the way they receive what I've said would be totally different from what I meant. And I'm just like, how did they get that out of that? You know? And then I found myself like going back trying to explain it in yet a different way or whatever, but just realizing that the only way that they can receive it is where they are. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's almost a waste of time to try to explain, like, okay, this is how I meant it. Mm-hmm. You know? And so again, like, we are the ones that give everything meaning, and that's everything. We give everything meaning, and it's so important that we're aware of that, because we are creating our reality. And if we keep giving everything a meaning that's harmful to us, that person doesn't want to be there for me. Everybody is against me. I got to do everything myself. You know, all kinds of messages that we tell ourselves. Right. If that's the meaning, if that's what we feel, then that's what we're going to get more of. Mm-hmm. And so at any time we can stop, give it a new meaning, and then live into that meaning, lean into that new meaning that you've given things. And I'm always like, when people say something like for example, somebody told me today or yesterday, they said, I'm homeless, I need help. And then they went on to say that their living arrangement was coming to an end on, well, I shouldn't say the date, but their living arrangement was coming to an end in a few weeks. Right. And so I'm saying, well, why would you claim that you're homeless? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Because you are a creator, and you can create any new situation or whatever. And so just start, instead of saying, I'm homeless, I need help, you could say something like, the situation that I'm in is coming to an end, and I'm looking forward to a new adventure, and something great is about to open up for me. And then get excited about that instead of, I'm homeless, you know, right. Because now you're looking for ways, your brain is going to automatically look to make you homeless. Mm-hmm. It's going to, basically whatever you're saying, your brain is saying, okay. And then it's going to work to make that thing happen.
Well, thank y'all for discussing this with me.
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing it.
Yeah, that was a good thing to be in awareness of, that right. We give meaning to everything. And I like that you started off with, if somebody talking to you in Spanish, it can't hurt your feelings if you don't know Spanish.
And I feel like it's something that we can apply to our everyday life. Mm-hmm. Being intentional about the meaning we are giving things. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for that. And thank you guys for joining us, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week. Until then, this is Arvette.
And this is Steve.
Teron.
Ryan.
Bye, y'all.